Hello students, welcome to the lecture on international pricing and cultural issues, and after this lecture we will be able to learn the following objectives. Understand the concept of international pricing, discuss on international distribution channel, understand international promotion, discuss on methods for setting the international advertising budget, explain the international promotional tools, discuss the concept of culture, understanding ethnocentrism concept. Let's start with a brief introduction to the topic international pricing and cultural issues. Negotiation can be basically said to be a means of conflict resolution where two or more parties attempt to resolve their dispute in a mutually agreed manner. Negotiating across cultures is not about reaching a consensus or maximizing one's position. It is about respect for the norms of the negotiating partners and establishing a long-term cordial relationship for business. The purpose of this is to critically examine the effect of culture on international business negotiations. Concept of international pricing. Pricing for international dealings between related parties should reflect a fair return for the activities carried out in Australia, the Australian assets used, whether sold, lent or licensed, and the risks assumed in carrying out these activities. International pricing strategy is a key component of the international marketing mix. In the context of international business, a firm's marketing mix may vary from country to country in order to accommodate local differences in culture, economic conditions, product standards, distribution channels, government regulations, and so on. Price discrimination. Price discrimination exists when the same goods or services are priced differently in different countries. This means that consumers pay different prices for the identical products or services based on what the local market can bear. Strategic pricing. Strategic pricing typically combines the benefits and innovations set by a product with the price sensitivities of consumers to develop flexible, executable, and sustainably value-based strategies. Predatory pricing. The traditional theory of predatory pricing holds that the dominant firm, predator, lowers its price so much for a sufficient period of time to make its competitors leave the market, but also discourage other competitors from entering the market. Multi-point pricing. Multi-point pricing occurs when two or more firms compete in two or more national markets, and the pricing strategy in one market may have an impact on the rival pricing strategy in another national market. Experience curve pricing. Firms around the globe aim at gaining market share and achieve global sales volume by lowering their prices. However, as the accumulated production volume increases, the unit costs decline as a result of lower fixed costs per unit, lower materials cost, and better production skills. Regulatory influences on prices. Both price discrimination and strategic pricing may be hindered by anti-dumping regulations and or competition policy. Anti-dumping regulations. In international trade law, dumping is defined as the act of selling a product in a foreign market lower than what it costs to produce it in the national market. Firms engage in dumping either to gain market share or to eliminate surplus. Competition policy. Most countries around the globe have regulations that promote healthy competition, limit the prices a firm can charge, and restrict monopolistic endeavors. These regulations are mostly used to control the prices that firms can charge and ensure that consumers will not be victims of monopolistic practices. International distribution channel. Globalization of markets is a phenomenon that has received much attention and been extensively debated both at general, societal, institutional, cultural levels and at market and business levels. Distribution channels' excellence has become a powerful source of competitive differentiation. International distribution channels in the consumer market. The range of distribution channels available in the consumer market has increased dramatically in the past decade, and there has been a corresponding increase in the competition between channels. A variety of traditional retail formats now compete with telephone, mail, internet, TV and digital TV as purchasing environments, and consequently understanding the factors that will lead consumers to purchase from one channel rather than another becomes an increasingly important input to channel design and management. Types of distribution channel. The international market uses two types of distribution channels. The first type of international distribution channel is for the producer to use agents, distributors, which in their turn use retailers in order to reach the end consumer. International promotion. Kotler defines marketing as human activity directed at satisfying needs and wants through exchange process. International marketing can be defined as marketing carried on across national boundaries. International marketing has also been defined as the performance of business activities that direct the flow of goods and services to consumers or users in more than in one nation. Scope of international marketing. Marketing basically means entry into international markets by opening a branch subsidiary abroad for processing, packaging, assembly, or even complete manufacturing through direct investment. Negotiating, licensing, franchising arrangements whereby foreign enterprises are granted the right to use the exporting company's know-hows, viz. Patents, processes or trademarks with or without financial investment. Establishing joint ventures in foreign countries for manufacturing and or marketing. Offering consultancy services and undertaking turnkey projects abroad. Sovereign political entities. Each country has a sovereign political entity and goods and services had to move across national boundaries. As a result, they may have to face a number of restrictions. This may fall in any of the following categories: tariffs and custom duties, quantitative restrictions, exchange controls, local taxes, different legal systems. Each country has its own legal system and it differs from country to country. Cultural differences. In domestic marketing, there is only one nation, same language and culture, whereas at international marketing, many languages and different cultures. Different monetary systems. Each country has its own monetary system and the exchange value of each country's currency is different from that of the other. Differences in the marketing infrastructure. The availability of the marketing facilities available in different countries may vary widely. Trade restrictions. Trade restrictions, particularly import controls, are a very important problem which an international marketer faces. Transport cost. In international trade, transport cost is a major marketing expense, whereas in domestic trade, transport cost influences only to a certain extent. Procedures and documentations. Each country has its own procedures and documentary requirements, and traders have to comply with these regulations if they want to export or import goods from foreign countries. Degree of risk. There is a greater degree of risk involved in international marketing than in domestic marketing due to large volume of transactions. Methods for setting the international advertising budget. Before finalizing the advertising budget of an organization or a company, one has to take a look on the favorable and unfavorable market conditions which will have an impact on the advertising budget. The market conditions to watch out for as follows: frequency of the advertisement, competition and clutter, market share of the product, product life cycle stage, frequency of the advertisement. International promotional tools. Promotional tools. Numerous tools can be used to influence consumer purchases. Advertising. In or on newspapers, radio, television, billboards, buses, taxis, or the internet. Price promotions. Products are being made available temporarily as at a lower price or some premium. Example, toothbrush with a package of toothpaste is being offered for free. Sponsorships. Point of purchase. The manufacturer pays for extra display space in the store or puts a coupon right by the product. Constraints on global communication strategies. Although firms that seek standardized positions may seek globally unified campaigns, there are several constraints. Language barriers. The advertising will have to be translated not just into the generic language category, example Portuguese, but also into the specific version spoken in the region, example Brazilian Portuguese. Cultural barriers. Subtle cultural differences may make an ad that tested well in one country unsuitable in another. Local attitudes towards advertising. People in some countries are more receptive to advertising than others. While advertising is accepted as a fact of life in the US, some Europeans find it too crass and commercial. Media infrastructure. Consumer media habits also differ dramatically. Newspapers appear to have a higher reach than television and radio in parts of Latin America. Advertising regulations. Countries often have arbitrary rules on what can be advertised and what can be claimed. Tools of promotion advertising, sales promotion, public relation and direct marketing. The 4 P's of marketing are product, price, place and promotion. All 4 of these elements combine to make a successful marketing strategy. Promotion looks to communicate the company's message across to the consumer. The 4 main tools of promotion are advertising, sales promotion, public relation, and direct marketing. Advertising. Advertising is defined as any form of paid communication or promotion for product, service, and idea. Advertisement is not only used by companies, but in many cases by museum, government, and charitable organizations. However, the treatment meted out to advertisement differs from an organization to an organization. Concept of culture. Culture has complex relationships that provide the societal information in the given society. The educational learning process of human beings in given societal information. This can be learnt in the parents, later on revolves in the family, then to the tribal community, as it could adopt the sensory motors of the child in the environment. Primarily, the concept of culture revolves in the human society on its belief, art, morals, custom, and other capabilities such as values, norms, traditions, mores, folkways, language, race, ethnicity, technology, fads, and laws. Tradition refers to the customs, rituals, belief, folklore, habits in a given ethnic group. When we speak about culture, the usual key concept is still on tradition because of the universality of the concept on the social experiences derived from that community. Folkways are the expected behavior being practiced in certain ethnic groups. Beliefs are the ideas, viewpoints, and attitudes of the particular group of society. They consist of fables, proverbs, myths, folklore, traditions, superstition, education, etc. that influence the ideas, values, emotions, perceptions and attitude of the members of the society. Values are the common ethical standards in a civilized society wherein group members have the ability to distinguish what is right or wrong. Norms are the proper conduct of social behavior that should be followed in the society. Norms are unquestionable standards of what society considers as good and proper for social behavior. Language is a form of communication that represents the spoken and written words to convey information to an individual or group of people. Mores are the long-established customs and traditions that have bearing in moral and ethical values of the society. They are the accepted customs of the society that prohibit following, such as incest, infidelity, or sex abuse. Laws are the rules, regulations, and guiding policies of societal institutions. The violation of the laws mean sanction or punishment for some wrongful acts by the individual, such as homicide, murder, abortion, rape, robbery, and other criminal acts. Cross-cultural communication defined. Language and cultural misinterpretations can be avoided by increasing our understanding of other people and their cultures. The study of cross-cultural communication addresses this need by examining the communications and interactions between people of different cultures and subcultures. The fundamental principle of cross-cultural communication is that it is through culture that people communicate. Thus, an Indian, a Chinese, an American speaks like any other Indian, Chinese, or American. Cross-cultural communication theory begins with the assumptions of cultural variations. These differences act as barriers to communication. Communication is intricately woven into the culture. Culture fosters or promotes communication process. There is a strong correlation between culture and language. Considering the variations in cultures that reflect communication, it is necessary to discuss the barriers to cross-cultural communication. The ethnocentrism concept. The term ethnocentrism stems from a more general concept developed by Sumner. In the beginning, ethnocentrism was a purely sociological construct, describing in group versus out-group conflicts. Sumner defines ethnocentrism as view of things in which one's group is the center of everything and others are scaled and rated with reference to it. Later studies dealt with ethnocentrism as a psychological construct, describing the tendency of an individual to identify strongly with her own in-group and culture, the tendency to reject out-groups, or the tendency to view any economic, political, or social event only from the point of the in-group. Psychologist Donald Campbell and his associates, people have tendencies to define what goes on in their own cultures as natural and correct, and what goes on in other cultures as unnatural and incorrect. Summary. Now in the end, let us summarize what we have learnt in this lecture. Negotiating across cultures is not about reaching a consensus or maximizing one's position. Multi-point pricing occurs when two or more firms compete in two or more national markets, and the pricing strategy in one market may have an impact on the rival pricing strategy in another national market. In domestic marketing, there is relatively stable business environment. At international marketing, multiple environments, many of which are likely unstable. Trade restrictions, particularly import controls, are a very important problem which an international marketer faces. The term ethnocentrism stems from a more general concept developed by Sumner. In the beginning, ethnocentrism was a purely sociological construct describing in-group versus out-group conflicts.